September 30th, 1986, Rome Airport, Italy. A 32-year-old man walks through the terminal with a beautiful blonde woman. They head toward a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. In the back seat of the car, the young woman kisses him repeatedly, keeping his mind far away from the world outside. Mordecai Vanunu, the former technician from the Dimona nuclear center who had just leaked Israel's greatest state secret, has no idea that these are his last hours of freedom. He doesn't know that the woman beside him is an undercover agent for the Mossad, Israel's elite foreign intelligence agency. He is walking straight into a trap that has been weeks in the making. Minutes after entering the apartment, Vanunu is rendered unconscious. When he wakes up, he is in the cabin of a ship. His hands are bound. He realizes with horror that he has been kidnapped and is being spirited back to Israel to face judgment. This is the story of the man who decided to tell the world the truth about Israel's nuclear bomb. History is in the headlines, but the truth? That's hidden in the profiles. Welcome to Profile. Subscribe to join our community of curious minds. Mordecai Vanunu was born in 1954 in Morocco into a religious Jewish family. At the age of 9, his family migrated to Israel. Like many Mizrahi Jews of that era, he faced the harsh challenges of integrating into a new society. He eventually studied physics at university and, after serving his mandatory military duty in an engineering unit, he spotted a job advertisement in 1976 that would change his life. He applied to work at one of the most secretive locations on the face of the earth, the Negev Nuclear Research Center, better known as Dimona. Vanunu passed a series of incredibly strict security clearances and was hired as a shift control technician. He was an ordinary citizen working in an extraordinary place. But to understand the weight of what Vanunu would later do, we must look back. In the 1950s, David Ben-Gurion, Israel's first prime minister, realized the strategic vulnerability of the newly established state. He concluded that an ultimate deterrent was a necessity for survival. That deterrent was the nuclear bomb. The master architect of this project was a young and ambitious politician named Shimon Peres. Using his close ties with the French government, Peres finalized a secret agreement to build a nuclear reactor and a plutonium reprocessing plant in the Negev desert. From its very inception, the project was cloaked in absolute secrecy. Israel told the world that Dimona was merely a textile factory. Later, the official narrative shifted to it being a peaceful research center. But the true goal was always the same: the production of weapons-grade plutonium. This was the closed, silent world that Mordecai Vanunu entered in 1976. Vanunu worked as a nuclear physics technician in the quality control department at Dimona. His duties included monitoring production processes, radiation control, and recording technical data. This position gave him access to sensitive information regarding plutonium production rates, the types of specialized equipment in use, and the various stages of the manufacturing cycle. By Israeli standards, he earned a high salary and lived a comfortable life. He was so well regarded at work that he even qualified for a car and phone allowance, though he showed little interest in these material perks. In 1979, while still employed at the facility, he enrolled at Ben-Gurion University of the Negev. He initially intended to study engineering, but within a week, he switched his major to economics. During his 9 years at Dimona, Vanunu gradually became aware of the true scale of Israel's nuclear program. He realized that what was being presented as peaceful research was, in reality, a massive weapons production line. Based on his calculations, Israel had produced over 200 kilograms of plutonium by the mid-1980s. That was enough to build an arsenal of 200 nuclear warheads. This discovery clashed with Vanunu's evolving political beliefs, which had shifted toward the far left. Having been exposed to socialist and pacifist ideals at the university, he now found himself at the heart of the Middle East's most significant arms race. The 1982 invasion of Lebanon and the horrific massacres in the Sabra and Shatila refugee camps added to his growing crisis of conscience. He also developed a deep resentment toward the way Israeli society was run. He felt there was a systemic discrimination by the Ashkenazi elite, Jews of European descent, against the Sephardic and Mizrahi Jews from the Middle East and North Africa. As a man of Moroccan origin, he felt belittled by the managers at the Dimona facility. According to the Jerusalem Post, his anti-Ashkenazi feelings eventually morphed into anti-Israeli and anti-Jewish sentiments. At the university, he became the primary advocate for Arab students, defending their rights with an intensity that many of his peers found irrational. His security file at the nuclear center began to grow, noting his leftist and pro-Arab beliefs. In May 1984, he was interrogated by Dimona's security chief and a lawyer, likely from the Shin Bet. He was released with a severe warning about the unauthorized disclosure of state secrets. By the mid-80s, Vanunu decided he could no longer stay. He believed that the people of Israel and the world had a right to know about the existence of this weapons program. He felt that the government's absolute secrecy was a barrier to international arms control in the region. Before leaving Dimona, he took a massive risk. Using a small camera that he secretly smuggled into his workplace, he took 57 photographs of the top-secret Mossad 2 plutonium production plant. He also copied vital technical documents detailing the production levels and plutonium stockpiles. In 1985, after quitting his job, Vanunu migrated to Australia. In Sydney, he joined a Christian group opposed to nuclear weapons and, in a move that many in Israel would see as the ultimate betrayal, he converted to Christianity. It was there that he met Oscar Guerrero, a Colombian journalist. Guerrero encouraged him to listen to his conscience and share his photos and information with the world. Vanunu chose the British newspaper, the Sunday Times. The Sunday Times was one of the most respected publications in the UK, with a long history of breaking sensitive international stories. After an initial review of his claims, the paper's journalists invited Vanunu to London for a series of in-depth interviews. Ironically, the same journalist who had encouraged him, Oscar Guerrero, approached the Israeli consulate in Sydney in August 1986. Hoping for a payout, he offered to help track down an Israeli traitor. He met with an intelligence officer named Avi Kleiman and told him Vanunu's story. While Kleiman was initially dismissive, he noted Vanunu's name and passport number. On September 7, 1986, two men identifying themselves as Shin Bet agents visited Vanunu's older brother, Albert, at his carpentry shop in Beersheba. They asked pointed questions about Mordecai. They told him his brother was in Australia talking to a British newspaper about his work at the nuclear center. They demanded that Albert convince him to stop, and then forced the brother to sign a non-disclosure agreement, preventing him from ever speaking about their visit. The noose was beginning to tighten. Mordecai Vanunu's arrival in London on September 10, 1986, marked the beginning of a high-stakes game of intelligence and journalism. He was no longer just a technician. He was carrying a secret that could forever change the face of the Middle East and Israel's standing in the world. The Insight investigative team at the Sunday Times, led by veteran journalist Peter Hunem, knew exactly how sensitive this case was. For a prestigious paper like the Sunday Times, the claims of a lone fugitive technician, no matter how documented they seemed, were not enough. They needed expert validation. For this, they invited Dr. Frank Barnaby, a prominent nuclear physicist and former weapons inspector, to meet Vanunu and scrutinize his evidence. For 3 weeks, in long, intensive sessions, Vanunu described everything he had seen and recorded at Dimona to Hunham and Barnaby. He didn't just show 57 photographs of the top-secret Mossad 2, the plutonium production plant, but using his extraordinary memory, he drew detailed maps and diagrams of the facility's underground floors on paper. He spoke of the extraction of lithium-6 for hydrogen bombs and revealed Israel's staggering plutonium production capacity. For Frank Barnaby, the information was shocking. After a rigorous analysis of the photos and matching them with Vanunu's technical explanations, he informed the Sunday Times that the story was entirely authentic. He stated that the details Vanunu provided could only have come from someone who had truly worked at the heart of that facility. Barnaby's confirmation was the missing piece of the puzzle. The Sunday Times now held a journalistic nuclear bomb. But Peter Hunham, acting as a dedicated professional, wanted to travel to the heart of the story to complete his report. He decided to verify certain details inside Israel itself. While this may have been the right move professionally, it would soon prove to be their greatest strategic blunder. In late September 1986, Hunham flew to Tel Aviv and checked into a hotel on Hayarkon Street. He began contacting Israeli journalists and experts who had written about the country's nuclear program. Hunham asked cautious questions to test the validity of Vanunu's claims. He didn't realize that in a security state like Israel, such questions from a foreign reporter are immediately reported to the highest levels of intelligence. His contacts set off alarm bells for the Shabak, Israel's domestic security service. One or more of the individuals Hunham contacted alerted the authorities to the suspicious activities of this British journalist. The Shin Bet located the journalist's room and, in a classic piece of spycraft, sent a tempting girl to lure him away. His absence from the hotel allowed agents to enter his room, where they discovered his plans and realized that Vanunu was in London. The Mossad squad, which had already begun organizing in Europe, immediately changed its destination and flew to the British capital. Throughout all of this, Mordecai Vanunu remained in London, unaware of the storm gathering on the horizon. He waited in relative peace for Sunday, October 5th, the day his life story and his great secret would be published on the front page of the Sunday Times. During his stay in Britain, the newspaper initially housed Vanunu in a hotel near their London office, but soon moved him to a more secure location near Welwyn in the rural district of Hertfordshire. It was a remote house, accessible only through a narrow road. Hunham considered it the perfect hideout. Eventually, Vanunu grew bored of the quiet countryside and demanded a new location in London. A room was booked for him under a fake name at the same hotel where he had originally stayed. He believed he was safe in a democratic country, under the protection of a powerful newspaper. He didn't know that in Tel Aviv, Mossad psychologists were already analyzing his personality to find the best way to trap him. A team of elite agents was designing one of the most complex kidnapping operations in the organization's history, an operation that had one key element: a charming and mysterious American tourist. While Vanunu waited in London for his revelation to go to print, the hours moved slowly. In his self-imposed isolation, he was starving for normal human connection. He didn't know that this need, this loneliness, would soon become his Achilles heel. The Israeli agents in London were watching his every move, but kidnapping him on British soil was too risky. It could cause a massive diplomatic nightmare between Israel and the UK. They needed a more elegant plan, a way to lure him to a neutral ground. On a warm afternoon, a charming American woman named Cindy crossed Vanunu's path in London's Leicester Square. She introduced herself as a tourist. Vanunu, feeling alone and under immense pressure, was quickly drawn to Cindy's warmth and friendly personality. He had no idea that Cindy was actually Cheryl Bentov, a highly trained Mossad operative. Vanunu later recalled this meeting in his first interview after prison. "When I arrived in London, I told myself to be careful, not to look for romance. But after 2 or 3 weeks, I fell for this girl. It was a classic sex trap." Cindy claimed to be a 26-year-old beautician from Philadelphia. They met every day, going to the cinema and theater. Peter Hunem, the Sunday Times reporter who had learned of the relationship, warned him repeatedly. "Be careful, I don't trust her." Everyone warned him, but Vanunu couldn't understand why. To him, she was a kind soul who kissed him often. A few days later, Cindy told Vanunu she was going to Rome for the weekend to visit her sister and asked him to come along. Vanunu, using flawed logic, believed that leaving for Rome would help him lose the Mossad agents he thought were following him in London. He accepted. The trip to Rome was the final act of the drama. At the airport, instead of a sister, a man met them with a bouquet of flowers and drove them to a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. In the back seat, Cindy sat next to Vanunu, kissing him constantly to keep him distracted from the world outside. The moment Vanunu followed Cindy through the door, 2 men lunged at him from the shadows. With sudden violence, they threw him to the ground and gagged him. A man's voice coldly ordered the girl in the room, "Give him 2 injections." The girl hesitantly warned that it was dangerous, but the man insisted. The needle went into Vanunu's skin, and he lost consciousness. When he woke up, Cindy was gone. Later that night, a white van rented by the Israeli embassy arrived. Vanunu was strapped to a stretcher and loaded inside. He was driven to the docks at La Spezia, transferred to a waiting speedboat, and finally taken to the Israeli ship, the Noga, which was anchored offshore. The journey back to Israel took 7 days. 5 days later, on October 5, 1986, the Sunday Times published its staggering report. Revealed the secrets of Israel's nuclear arsenal. It estimated that Israel had produced more than 100 nuclear warheads. On October 7th, as the ship docked in Israel, Vanunu was taken to Ashkelon prison. His interrogator placed a copy of the newspaper on the desk and said, "Look what you've done." The message on the palm. 1 month later, the Israeli government finally revealed that Vanunu had been arrested. But Vanunu refused to accept defeat. He knew the state would deny the kidnapping. During his next court appearance, while being transported in a police van, he executed his own brilliant plan. He had carefully written the details of his abduction on the palm of his hand. As he passed the crowd of journalists, in a sudden movement, he pressed his palm firmly against the glass window. The camera flashes captured his short, shocking message for history. It was his last cry in the free world. In March 1987, Mordecai Vanunu was tried for treason and espionage and sentenced to 18 years in prison. He spent more than half of that time in solitary confinement. In a recorded interview from prison, he said, "I wanted the world to know what was going on. This is not treason. This is informing the world against Israel's policies." He was released in 2004, but remained under heavy security restrictions, forbidden from leaving the country. Upon his release, he refused to answer questions in Hebrew, stating he was deeply hurt by the suffering the state had inflicted on him. He told the press, "You couldn't break me, and you couldn't make me crazy." He even went further, stating that a Jewish state was not necessary and that a Palestinian state should exist instead. In 2008, the newspaper Haaretz wrote, "Vanunu is a difficult and complex character. He is stubbornly and admirably committed to his principles." Before Vanunu's revelation, very little was known about Israel's nuclear capability. It is believed the program began shortly after the state's founding in 1948. David Ben-Gurion understood the value of a nuclear deterrent, but he didn't want to risk ties with the West by openly proliferating weapons in an unstable region. This led to the secret deal with France to build Dimona, a plant that produced raw materials for nuclear weapons as early as the 1960s. For years, Israel insisted Dimona was a textile factory. When American inspectors visited in the 60s, they were unaware of the underground floors because the entrances to elevators and tunnels were hidden behind bricks and plaster. Today, the Center for Arms Control estimates that Israel possesses around 90 nuclear warheads. Yet Israel maintains its official policy of nuclear ambiguity. Since 1970, 191 countries have joined the Non-Proliferation Treaty, but Israel remains one of the few that has not. In Israel, Vanunu is branded a traitor, but to his supporters around the world, he remains a hero of peace. What is your verdict on Mordecai Vanunu? Is he a traitor who endangered his nation, or a hero who told the world a truth it needed to hear? Every story has two sides, and the truth usually lies somewhere in the shadows. We want to hear your perspective. Join the discussion in the comments below. If this profile gave you a new perspective, support our mission with a like and share. Thank you for being part of the Profile community. Until next time, stay curious.